let's start this. So today's agenda, I'll have a few updates that I'll be giving. We'll talk about a question that I received on how to frame student learning outcomes for student life and what you may be doing locally at your campus. And then for the remainder of the time, there have been a significant number of requests for time to just talk and dialogue with other institutions regarding their fall plans, what they're going to be doing for travel, their levels of campus or current student involvement. I've heard from some institutions indicating that their levels of student involvement or trying to re-engage or re-energize clubs and organizations has been somewhat challenging here at the beginning of the semester. So I want to hear from you specifically on how your institution may be attacking that. And then we'll talk about some technology solutions, ideas, software platforms, and things of that nature of how institutions are engaging students, both in person on campus and virtually. So anytime you want to know what's going on in regards to legislative action, state board action, you can always navigate to our website. That's nccommunitycolleges.edu. At the top menu bar, there's the state board items, and then you can go through each of the tabs for each of the various committees on the state board. The most significant announcement from our most recent state board meeting is probably the formal signing and commencement of the Associate of Arts and the Associate of Science for teacher preparation and in partnership with the UNC system as well as the private university system. Those agreements were formally signed. They had a press conference earlier this week, and so that's probably the most exciting news that came out of our last state board meeting and state board action. There are a host of other things, of course, budget discussions, campus audits, things of that nature, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds on that, but all of those resources are out there on our state budget, state board tab if you wish to go view those at your leisure. Probably one of the most important things I want to discuss with today is a number of students, faculty, and staff in the Haywood area or from Haywood College have been impacted due to the recent flooding from Tropical Depression Fred. There were some email bounce backs between institutions on sort of the western side of the state. I wanted to let folks know that they are still looking for item donations, financial donations, things of that nature. If your student government wants to do any type of donation drive or take any type of action, of course, they're looking for volunteers to help them in the community as well. Obviously, depending on your proximity to Haywood and some of the colleges out west, that may be difficult. But the website here has been provided for information on how to donate, where to send items to, what type of items that they're looking to collect in order to assist students. And I think it's a great way to sort of re-engage or bring on that civic responsibility in helping our colleges that are in the West and that were impacted by some of the storms and flooding that recently took place. And so, again, helpinghaywood.org is probably the first place I'll tell everyone to go if you are interested in doing any type of volunteerism work, whether it's sending items, going to volunteer, or gathering items at your institution, whether it be money, supplies, etc., and send to that area of our community. And so I'm going to pause there if there are any questions about that particular item.
JJ Barb asked in the chat, was there an option to help students of Haywood directly? I know a few years ago when Carteret was hit by a hurricane, and that's when Gabe was still there, they were collecting cleaning supplies, and I know a couple of the colleges went to Carteret and dropped off supplies, cleaning supplies and what they needed directly to Carteret, and then Carteret gave those to students. So I'm with Barb, you know, and I will say I was in Haywood County last weekend, and it's bad up there. I mean, the devastation is, people have lost, several folks have lost everything they had due to the flooding. But yeah, I'm with Barb. Is there a way we can help students at Haywood directly?
Yes, so it is my understanding that this organization was started by or supported by Michael Coleman, who's the VP of Student Services at Haywood. And so I was told that this should be the first avenue that individuals utilize in order to send support. Of course, I can call and I'll send some emails and contact the institution directly to see if they have, and you can always donate to their local campus foundation, things of that nature. And I'll also contact someone within Student Services to see if they're doing any other sort of local on-campus specific type of donation or drive as well. And anything I find, I'll make sure I'll email or share out to the group. Good question, thank you. So next, we're gonna quickly jump to N4C SGA. I know there have been a number of questions and emails regarding, are we gonna try to meet in person? Are we gonna be virtual? Sort of what's gonna happen? I think what's probably the safest answer is to say we're gonna be meeting virtual for the at least foreseeable fall semester. And as we talk with members here at our system office, obviously the system office, we will follow the directive of the governor. And so typically any action on in terms of closing or mask mandates, anything of that nature, the system office itself follows the directive of the governor. Colleges sometimes have their own ways of how they determine those types of things, but it has been recommended to meet virtually, at least for the fall, of course, with the number of cases that are currently rising and moving forward. I can pause here, Tiff. I know I want to give Tiffany an opportunity to sort of introduce herself, also talk about sort of where we are in the process. We are still looking for students to sit on a state board, as well as a president to sit in our State Board of Community Colleges. So at this time, we don't have a student in that particular chair when those meetings take place, and to me that's crucially important, especially when most of the State Board as well as the government appointees are new. I always want to make sure that they have the student perspective in the room, especially as some of these major decisions are taking place. And so I encourage you and implore you, if you have a student that's currently involved locally at your college, please send them to us because we definitely need a presence in that room. And so I'm going to pause and let Tiffany take over the floor, and then we'll keep it moving.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tiffany Scobie. Welcome to all the new people. And I am the senior advisor for N4C SGA. Like JJ said, I think JJ summed it up really well. We need students for our board. We want to make sure we have a presence on the state level, specifically with what's going on in the state right now. So we need a board. If you've got students, please send them our way. I'm also, for our division meeting, looking for advisors to help with some of our sessions, as well as if you know former SGA or N4C SGA members, to send them correspondence or send them to me. I'd like to have them help with some of our sessions, as our theme is going to be past, present, and future N4C SGA. But JJ, I think you did a wonderful job summing everything up, so thank you.
Awesome. Obviously, we look forward to hosting these events. We look forward to the upcoming semester. Obviously, we know so things can change on the day-by-day, week-to-week nature, and so we'll plan to try to provide the best experience for students that we can, whether we are virtual or face-to-face. One of the most pressing questions that I received over the summer was, how do you develop student learning outcomes in student life programming? And there have been a number of questions and emails regarding, is there a framework? Is there something that I can use? Is there a template, things of that nature? And so I'm going to breeze through this really quickly. We can have another professional development session just on this. We can spend hours on this, but this is a framework that I think will help you articulate what you do to others on your campus, and it does it in a way that you can easily indicate key items within your programming model or events or things that you do, and speak it in a language that faculty, staff, and administrators locally at your college can understand. So if you've never heard of the CAS standards, I'll give it to you really quick. CAS standards is standards of higher education. They have one for student leadership, all types of student activities, campus engagement, etc. I pulled out the learning domains because I thought these 6 key areas are easily wrapped around student life and what we do very well. And so those 6 key areas are knowledge acquisition, construction, application, cognitive complexity, interpersonal development, interpersonal competence, humanitarianism, and civic engagement, and practical competence. These are the things and areas that we teach through a variety of programming and opportunities that we provide for students. And so each of these break down really easily into other categories. And of course, there are specific learning outcomes and or statements that go along with them. And so really quickly, for the first, for knowledge acquisition, I went too fast. For knowledge acquisition, construction, integration, and application, what you do on a daily basis is you teach students to understand knowledge from a range of areas. You help them connect knowledge with other ideas and experiences that you provide. You help them construct knowledge, and you help relate that knowledge to their own daily life or their own daily experience, right? In terms of cognitive complexity, you teach critical thinking, you provide reflective exercises, whether that's through service learning or other opportunities to engage with what they're doing. You teach reasoning skills, creativity when they're planning or thinking outside of the box with programming. These are skills that you can take any type of event and plug these particular characteristics in as to, by bringing in a professor to talk about what's going on in Afghanistan and the drawdown, you're teaching a number of critical thinking and reflective exercises, etc. Additionally, for intrapersonal development, you teach self-understanding, respect, identity development, commitment to ethics and integrity, spiritual oneness. I know a number of you give assessments to your students, whether they're Myers-Briggs, Strengths, Enneagram, bringing in speakers to talk about other cultures and diversities when it comes to religion. So these are things that you can easily articulate the ways in which you teach student life or engagement to students. The last 2 areas are interpersonal competence, right? So understanding meaningful relationships, interdependence, getting students to think and act on their own, building collaboration, effective leadership, teamwork building. A number of campuses have their own leadership platforms and as programs as well that teach and reinforce all of these skills. So again, these things are easily relatable to what you already do. Of course, humanitarianism, I got it right that time, civic engagement. So understanding global perspective, social responsibility, and civic responsibility, whether it's be getting students to vote, bringing lawmakers and other individuals to campus to talk about political advocacy, political forums. These are things you already do. You're just putting it in the language of a student learning outcome or a perspective from an administrator standpoint. And lastly is teaching students practical competence, right? So understanding, pursuing goals, being timely, using technology, managing and balancing life in their personal matters, helping them along their career path, whether it's a conversation in the van, trying to help students understand what they want to do when they transfer or where they want to go. You do all these things on a daily basis, and it's easy to sort of use this language and framework in order to develop your own learning outcomes so that you can professionalize the way people view student life on your campus. These are things you already do. It's just using them and framing them in a different language. And again, what I can do is I will send out this framework. There's some documentation that sort of goes in further detail, but this was sort of just a quick snapshot, quick overview of the CAS standards for learning development and learning outcomes that I think you could use in order to develop and frame what you're doing for this year, next year, and years to come. Any questions on that? And of course, yes, ma'am, I'll send you these slides and a whole host of other documents as well. All right, hearing none. So now I'm going to be quiet. because I was told that you all wanted time to speak on a number of these topics. And so I will let someone chime in to figure out which topic they want to talk about first. It may be easier just to talk about what colleges are doing in terms of fall planning, whether it's virtual, in person, or what you all have already done for Welcome Back Weeks. I've seen food trucks. I've seen mascot reveals. I've seen giveaways. I've seen T-shirts, snow cones, all of it. So does anyone want to chime in and share maybe what they're doing locally at their college or what they have planned for the fall? Don't everybody speak at once.
This is Julie with Brunswick Community College. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I can tell you what we did this week. The first week of class, we did hot dogs, sunset slush, which is like Italian ices. We had a radio station here, which is kind of like a big fun couple hours in the afternoon. Then the next day we did Krispy Kreme donuts early in the morning, but then we got rained out, so we had to finish inside at lunch. Then Wednesday we did, what the heck did we do Wednesday? Thursday we did games. Oh, Wednesday we just did popcorn. We had the popcorn machine just kind of around campus, popping up all over campus. And we also gave out T-shirts the week before during registration. So just lots of little things for our week.
Thank you for sharing.
I don't
While
mind.
we're on the top, go ahead, Jay.
Are you sure? No, go ahead. You said while we're on the topic.
I was going to say, while we're on the topic of food, when you talk whether are you doing those things individually packet, like how comfortable are you with students maybe picking donuts or pizza out of the box, or how are you handling some of those sanitary cleanliness type issues as it relates to COVID and people feeling comfortable with maybe large buffet style meals?
What we did, the kids didn't seem to care, but what we did was we had gloves on and masks, of course, and we put 2 donuts on each plate and then just handed it to each student so that they weren't touching anything. And then the popcorn, I put popcorn in bags and then stapled the bags shut. So each student was just handed a bag of popcorn. And then the Italian ice, the slushes, they had 2 carts that they normally have on the beach here. They had 2 carts here on campus, and they just distributed the ices to each student, whatever flavor they wanted. So the students didn't touch that either.
Thank you.
So we had our week of welcome planned out, and we did it this week. And then we kind of pivoted a little bit slightly based on an event that the president had scheduled for employees where it was supposed to be in person and we were supposed to gather, and she just kind of had a grab and go event. And so we decided to make our events for this week grab and go. So on Monday we did ice cream. Some of the campuses just handed out popsicles. Others had Rita's ice cream. And so they scooped it and gave it to the students. On Tuesday, we did prepackaged service projects. So we partner with an agency here called, it just slipped my mind. I'm sorry. It's an agency that is geared towards helping young students learn to read so that they're on grade level. And so you make bookmarks and you Promising Pages, that's the name of it. You make bookmarks and you write a little letter to a student encouraging them to read. So we prepackaged those and put them in Ziploc bags, put stickers in there. They could decorate it with their own markers and crayons at home. And then we gave them a t-shirt. So it was kind of grab it and go. Yesterday, same thing. We did a crafting event. We had little canvases and we bought little paints stuck them in a bag, and we also put a QR code for our Instagram. So we said, here's an example of a little painting that you could make. Tag us on Instagram and we'll show your artwork on our page. Today we have trivia, and so we're doing trivia every hour on the hour from 10 to 3. And so that is a virtual program, and whoever is the winner for those different trivia sessions will get a e-gift card that we will send out to them. Tomorrow we purchased an esports membership, so we're doing esports tomorrow. And we also have a virtual club and organization fair. And so all of our clubs and organizations will be on a Zoom session, so students can learn about what clubs and organizations that they can be a part of. I've kind of gave my team some guidance, and first I wanted to see how much traffic we had in person over the first 2 weeks. I mean, I'll be honest, last week was very heavy, and this week it seems a little bit lighter in comparison. I wanted to see until the end of this month, kind of making a plan moving forward. I do believe that we'll be more hybrid. So I think we'll set some standards for in-person as far as numbers. Obviously, masks are required. If food is being given out, I'd like for it to be prepackaged, or like my colleague said, we'll have masks and gloves on and we'll distribute that stuff. We're still trying to figure out travel. The college has said there's no travel from the state level. There's no hindrance on travel, so they're not going to put anything in place. But I think we need to be smart about how many students we put in cars or vehicles, how many students are in hotel rooms. So I want to be able to provide my clubs and organizations that information. Pretty soon, we do an orientation for advisors and club leadership. I'd like to have that in place soon, but I was kind of coming here to get like all the good tidbits that you guys are doing. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing.
Hey y'all, I'm Lala from Isothermal. So we actually did welcome back with a snack for the first day back, and I had snacks available. I had gloves, mask, and the only thing that I had that wasn't pre-packaged was cupcakes, and I was the only one who gave them a cupcake with the gloves on, gave it on a plate. And the students, they are not worried about germs or anything, but I have sanitizers out. I made them sanitize before they could even grab the individual snacks, that kind of thing. But we also had a passive table available with last minute back to school supplies with, some index cards. We had a job fair over the summer, so I got all the free pens and swag that I could over the summer. So we had pens, highlighters, stylus, notebooks, that kind of thing for them to be able to grab that they didn't think of when they were coming back to school. So they had that available. And then today is Women's Equality Day, and we also have a passive station. I've got some laptop water bottle type stickers out on the table for them, hand sanitizer, and a note signage that says, hey, sanitize your hands before handling materials. Got a little thing of candy out there as well. And we are rebuilding here at Isothermal. I have 4 SGA students so far. That's it. So this is our first week back. All of my students graduated and 2 transferred. So this is definitely a rebuilding year. So them being able to see these things happening in person on campus is going to really be able to excite these students to get involved again.
Jump on in there. Anyone else want to share or ask a question of the group?
JJ, I will say we've got virtual activities going on this week, but not much of a response. I don't know if that's due to the fact that it's the second week of classes and students are already overwhelmed. We have offered a photo scavenger hunt with, Amazon gift cards as the prizes. One student submitted their photos, and of course tomorrow's the deadline. And then we've got a test your Durham Tech knowledge with just like 10 easy questions that you can find the answers to on the website. I think we've had like 11 students respond to that. So in talking with my SGA yesterday during our meeting, they said they felt like students were already overwhelmed just because it's the second week of classes. And I get it, their classwork and whatever else they've got going on is more important than a scavenger hunt or test your Durham Tech knowledge. We are going to do a welcome to the family night with the Durham Bulls on September 9th. Tickets are selling, but not selling as quickly as I had anticipated. So I think, there again, people don't necessarily want to go to a large outdoor event because it's at the ballpark and it is outdoors. But yeah, it's interesting. And as far as food, we did first day donuts, did Krispy Kreme donuts. The students actually had masks, had gloves, and had tongs to pick the donuts up and put on a napkin to give people. So there was no actual touching of the donuts. And we're turning 60 this year. So not next week, but the week after, we're doing our 60th anniversary celebration with free t-shirts, Durham Tech trivia, and I've ordered cupcakes, but I was fortunate to find a lady who can individually pack the cupcakes in the plastic hard shell things. So that way student just grabs the cupcake and goes. There's no touching of the food or what have you. And then of course we'll give them t-shirts. I'm just hoping I can get through that event. And if then we all shut down again and go back home, I can just go back to virtual and say, well, at least I got a couple activities in person for fall semester. But yeah, it's definitely different. There's no doubt about being back on campus that it is completely different. So.
Go ahead, Bart.
Hey, JJ. I was going to touch base on travel. We fortunately are probably 60% back on campus, so we've had over 400 students attend our Welcome Back Week event. We had 73 students. We did an online virtual resource hunt on the website. We hit our mascot on virtual pages, and students had to fill out a Google form. I was really impressed that we had 73 people. We opened it up for 5 days. That's for us, that's very successful when students have been so unresponsive. I feel like we're seeing a rebound in students. They don't want to get involved. Well, they've been forced to be isolated. And so now we're having this rebound effect. We have 8 student ambassadors already. We have 4 work study students. We saw over 400 students for our Welcome Back Week last week, plus the other 73. So we're seeing a rebound. Our travel, we can travel with students in college vehicles, but they have to provide proof that they're vaccinated. We don't keep a copy of it, but they do have to show it to us. We are planning on college events, and we'll either have to make arrangements for students who don't have or aren't able to be vaccinated, an option for them to get there. But my executive director would like to do some vaccinated only events for students, but we're going to look for options on how do you get them there, because we can't make a determination of why they're not getting vaccinated and treat them differently, in my opinion. Because if they have a medical or religious belief that keeps them from being medicated, yes, Gilbert, those will include $5 Fridays. Yep. So
one thing I'll chime in really quickly as it relates to travel. I know there are a number of questions regarding travel. I have contacted our legal liaison here at the system office, and I've requested her to present to our group in early September regarding travel rules and liability. Some of the questions I asked her were, can you require vaccinations to travel to overnight conferences? Should that be allowed? If you are traveling with middle college or early college students, is it required that you have a faculty or staff liaison from that organization in order to travel? What do you do for transgendered students in terms of hotel rooms and accommodations? All of those types of sort of gray area questions. If you have any of those questions that you want to provide or put them in the chat now, please let me know. I'll include those so she can have maybe some starting points of, looking up legislation, whether it be local or state, in terms of what's sort of the best practice in order to travel with students, especially as it relates to being safe for COVID protocols, but then all of those other gray area questions when it comes to traveling with students and liability, things of that nature. Another question that really came up regarding sort of the level of liability students have if we allow a student to drive on their own to a destination as opposed to taking the school-sponsored vehicle to a trip. And so any of those types of questions that you have, whether it be in-state or out-of-state travel, whether it's for PTK, Skills USA, or just any other conference that you may find, feel free to email me or put them in the chat, and I'll make sure I send those to her as she's creating that presentation and information for us. But someone else chime in. Does anyone want to talk about their level of clubs and organizations and what they're doing to try to revise clubs and organizations that may have not met in person or on campus for the last year or 2 years almost?
It is hard. I'll chime in, right? I'm chiming in on that. We have lost, I'm just going to say we lost everybody. Because not only did we have COVID to come in, we were remodeling our auditorium area, which is where a lot of our students congregated anyway, and we don't have a lot of congregation areas at our school just by design, not by just the way the school is laid out. So when we lost that, and then and then COVID hit, it just doubled down on it, and I'm catching a hard time trying to get these students back to staying on campus. Really, right now, they're coming on campus, going to class, and they're going home. You know what I mean? And they are still just tired of the whole virtual thing. So trying to do virtual activities is I mean, I'm pulling, I let my hair grow just so I can pull it out. But it's tough, man. I mean, the whole virtual thing, I mean, they just, school's just starting, and they're already tired of virtual because everything they're doing is virtual. So I'm doing on-campus activities, and I'm pushing everything, or I'm pushing 90% of my activities and events, what I'm doing as far as in time-wise, and when I'm placing them, or what time I'm placing them, gearing them to early college and CCP, because they're on campus and they're the ones that's participating. You got a captive audience. So I'm putting everything around lunchtime. We go between 11 and 1:30. That's it. Even our Fall Fest, we're going to revamp it. I changed the name of it and just called it Jaggers Fun Fest because we're only going to run it for 2 hours, and we're not going to do any type of rides or anything like that. We're just strictly doing concessions and arts and crafts, those type of giveaways like candle art, create a tile and all those type of things. But we're not doing any of the games or anything like that for that time. So, it's definitely changed out there, and trying to get students to participate in SGA. Right now, I have a president and a vice president, period. And throughout the pandemic, I haven't seen a reason to expand even really beyond that for right now, because there's no need to have a full board. And that's just how, just because of the volume of what we're doing, and just to carry a full board at this point really is unnecessary. So, but yeah, and I think all the other clubs on our campus, they're suffering as well as far as getting people to participate, and not just be a name on a list, but actively participate in the actual club itself. So, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough.
There's some great comments in the chat. I want to make sure that if you don't have the chat box open, make sure you open it. But, does anyone that has maybe chatted a message want to chime in?
I will. I put a question in the chat asking, how your school systems, like for your early colleges, their rules, how is that impacting what you guys are doing? Because for our school system, Randolph County Schools is not allowing any visitors on their campuses. And the majority of students that I have on our campus right now are early college. So it becomes counterintuitive for me to have visitors because they have a no visitor rule. And so, and most of our traditional students are still online. So it's kind of like just yesterday I had a recruiter from the Army come morning. He wanted to set up. Can't do it, man. And so I got like, how is that impacting a lot of the programming you guys are doing, the rules that they have?
Shane, are you saying that because Randolph County schools are not allowing visitors, you're not allowing visitors to your CCP students on your campus?
Yes.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that. That's just me.
The reason being is because literally right now, if I had a visitor come, the only students they're going to interact with are the early college students. And so it becomes counterintuitive. It's like we're finding a way around the Randolph County Schools rule. And
are
so
y'all allowing visitors on your own campus?
Yes and no. It's like a case by case scenario.
Are you
What's that?
Are you open to the public?
Certain areas.
What do you mean, certain areas?
Like our student lounge is open to the public, yes. But
are y'all open for business to the general public?
Certain areas.
So
like our library is normally open to the public. It is not right now.
So it's only open to what? Students?
Students.
All right. So that's open to students. Those are CCP students. Those CCP students are students at Randolph.
Yes, they are. But I'm not going to send a visitor over there. That's what I'm saying is like an outside entity, which is really going to impact stuff like CACRO too. Because for those of you that are recruiters, like Randolph County Schools, they're not going to have college fairs because those are visitors. So, like, am I then going to tell those recruiters they can come set up at RCC and interact with those high school students and subvert Randolph County Schools?
I wouldn't see where I would not allow it. I mean, but I think
we could. We're within our right to do it. Yeah, but are we being a good partner by doing it is the question.
You say what now?
I said we could do it. There's no reason why I couldn't, but would I be being a good partner in doing it?
Your campus is open and their campuses isn't. Those students are students of your campus. That's where they reside. So
yeah, and then when I have a visitor that tests positive and then they have to send 60 kids home from the high school,
you got that to worry about. You got that to worry about anyway. I mean, they go to Walmart.
I know. I'm just saying, Derek. I don't want to be the reason. Let Walmart be the reason.
I got you, but we don't know where they're gonna get it from. I mean, that's why, and I think that's one of the things. To be honest with you, Shane, that I grapple with athletics is because our kids, we can't put them in a bubble. You know what I mean? So they come and they go home, and we just gotta hope they're doing the right thing. The same thing with your CCP students. I mean, if they're on your campus and your campus is open, then it's the rules that reside on your particular campus. That's how I believe we would look at it, and that's how I govern it. But
and I totally get that. I just don't want when there is an outbreak, when it's put on the news, Randolph County Schools had an outbreak at the early college. It was because I brought a recruiter to campus.
You can't prevent that anyway. Because they can.
I can by not doing it.
They can go to the sheets across the street and get it.
Okay, I don't want to take up the time with the.
That's the thing. But and like I said, that's the whole thing. Like I said with athletics, we can. The one thing is through the NJCAA, we can require. We can make it a requirement that everyone is vaccinated. We can do that outside and with being opposite of the institution. So the institution, so that the school cannot necessarily require. They can't, let's say they can't require it. Let's say they don't require it. But in athletics, we can. And as long as administration says, "Oh, that's fine," they agree with it. We can go with that. So, but with that, you don't know where it's coming from. You can't say, "Okay, the recruiter brought the Delta into your campus." You can't say that because that kid can go right across the street to Sheets.
And I know. I understand that, but if that recruiter comes and tests positive and then tells us that they did, then we have to quarantine every kid that came and saw that recruiter.
So
And that's what I'm
think
trying to avoid.
this
because
is
of
a
contact
very
tracing.
highly complex issue. I'll give a localized example. So there's one community college, I won't say it by name, but they have 4 early college that reside on their campus, and there's one from every county, right? And there are problems arise when counties have different policies as it relates to vaccines and quarantines and mask mandates and things of that nature. And so even though they're on the college campus, they're still locally bound to their county's executive order by their local school system. And so that's where it gets a little gray, because these are, some have formalized buildings and structures within our campuses as it relates to some of the relationships that we have. Jesse threw a
We've got
question. I
that
don't
very
know.
same issue on our campus where our early college does not require masks, but the college does. So when they're in the early college building, they don't wear it. Then they can come into our building, they have to put it on. But are they doing it? No.
Right, and so that's where a lot of it's just, I understand the complexity of and the nuance of all of these situations. For those that may have fitness centers on campus, Ms. Bennett put a question in here regarding, have your fitness centers reopen? Are you allowing students to, whether there be weight rooms, basketball, sort of any of those types of intramural sports? Anybody want to chime in on that particular question?
I put it in the chat that we're not doing live intramurals at this time, only because I've watched basketball. We've done basketball and football and things like that, and there's so much interaction and physical. I mean, they're closer than 3 feet apart, and so I'm also not going to ask somebody to play basketball with a mask on, because that's just waiting for somebody to pass out from CO2, lack of oxygen stuff. So we're just keeping everything virtual at this time. And Derek, it's so good to see you again arguing with Shane. My heart is happy.
I just
really,
texted Eric and said, I love you, brother, and I miss you.
Y'all really just miss arguing with one another. I think that's everybody. We just miss dialoguing and being in the same room together. So I'm glad we're able to do this. Before we run out of time here on the 11 o'clock hour, is anyone using any technology platform or solution or virtual programming or anything that they want to highlight or talk about that they may not have used last year? Anyone doing, for example, fantasy football online for their campus or whatever the case may be? I know it's a big season for that this time of year.
At Rowan Cabarrus, we're doing fantasy football next week. So big thing that we're doing is we are meeting the students where they are. So as an example, that the fantasy football is going to be at our one of our satellite campuses. So we're going to be focusing on the like HVAC students, some other vocational students like that. We've had great success in our in-person stuff, so I expect the fantasy football will be really fun and really exciting and well attended. A big thing that I'm learning at my new institution, I'm new to Rowan Cabarrus, still only a few months, but being able to pull reports to find out where the students are. Hopefully that's technology that's at every college, but finding out where the classes are and how many students, that's certainly helpful in doing all these plannings and meeting the students where they are. And yeah, I mean, we're trying everything at Rowan Cabarrus to connect students. We've got esports starting up. We're starting a student-led podcast that we hope will help us engage students. If you all don't use Google Drive or Google Forms, I certainly recommend that. And then I've always been a big proponent of Zoom. I know each college has their own kind of virtual meeting thing that they like to use, but I've used them all, and by far, I think Zoom's the easiest. So just a matter of finding those students and connecting with them however they are.
JJ, I'm going to be doing something new. We're trying to get data on like who's coming to our events, so we're going to be using these handheld scanners to scan student IDs. I'm sure other schools have probably already been doing that, but we're finally going to do that just to help us determine who's coming to our events, ages, and whatnot, so we can generate reports. Because I know some schools, middle college, high schools, early college, high schools, CCP students, those colleges are able to get money from the school systems for student activity fees for those students so that they can participate. Whereas right now, our middle college CCP students participate, but they're not paying anything. And so we're hoping by scanning IDs and seeing who's coming to our events, who's participating in events, that we can, maybe down the road make the argument, okay, look, we've got the numbers to show most of the folks coming to our events are middle college and CCP students. We need to get some money from the school system, as far as activity fees to be paying for these folks so they can participate in these events. So.
We recently here at Fayetteville Tech just got that ID gun also, so we can start capturing that. And the main reason is like you were mentioning earlier, that virtual attendance, because it's so drastically decreased, especially during the summer semester. I was starting to get questioned by the business department on some programming options and considering was the value worth the attendance. And I explained to them that it's extremely challenging because we had a Harry Potter day, we had 82 folks attend. We had a the Women's History Month, and there was only 3. I cannot control how many folks are coming. I can't control the time of day. If it's during class, maybe they had a flat tire, life happens. But I can say that my business office is staying on top of me a little bit more this year. And we do have to produce numbers to try to articulate why it was worth the value. And that is a struggle I'm running into here.
Documentation is definitely important. Shouldn't be the only driver, of course, right? And don't let them deter you from offering experiences for students. That'll be sort of, I'll stand and preach on that stone all day. But I do understand, making sure that you're being good stewards of funding and moving forward. And so I'm going to talk about funding. Barb, I see your hand up. I'm going to talk about funding really quick. And so as you are thinking about who's a student on your campus, and do you define a student by someone that's engaging with your institution regardless of where they are, whether they're Con Ed, basic skills, ESL, BLET, or are you only considering students who are curriculum that pay a student activity fee? And I think that in working, obviously each college is going to have its own flavor of who they deem as a student, but there are larger populations of students on your campuses who you may not be serving because they don't pay a student activity fee. And I know that can become a political conversation locally, but I want you to consider those other pockets of students on campus, whether it's a basic skills student or an adult high school student that are there. They're seeking potentially campus engagement opportunities, but they're not contributing to your student life budget. But they are there and they are a student on your campus. And so, maybe broadening your definition of who can participate will hurt, right? I know CCP early college and middle college debates and whether they pay student fees and they eat up all the food or they take all the giveaways, right? But they are on our campuses. They are within the walls of our institution. And so, in JJ's vision, anyone that's on our campus for that particular day is a student of the college. But I know politically, locally, that decisions are sometimes impacted by budgets and money and who contributes to the funding that you all are using to plan programming. And the same thing goes for faculty and staff, right? I know, Shane, if you're not paying student activity fees, faculty and staff don't participate. Some colleges allow faculty and staff to participate in giveaways or food items or T-shirts or whatever the case may be. And so, I guess all I'm saying is I'm encouraging you to have those conversations if you're not already having them locally as it relates to what you're going to be doing moving forward for this year and, of course, beyond. Any other thoughts, comments? Anybody else want to chime in? Go ahead.
I just wanted to let you all know of some ways that I have gotten extra funds. If you've had to pivot for anything that's COVID related, don't hesitate to request HERF money. So, I've spent a lot of the summer with some counterparts at UNCG, and we really focused on the impact that this had on our students that are now second year students. They don't know what our environment looked like pre-COVID. And so we feel like they needed a lot of special attention. So activities that we have geared towards those populations, I didn't want to use, well, I wanted to see if I could get money somewhere else other than my student activity fees, which is limited here at Central Piedmont. So I requested for HERF. I did the same thing for extra stanchions that we needed, for masks, for gloves. Any PPE related stuff is clearly outlined in the HERF document provided by the Department of Education. So I don't know, everyone's probably has a different process to request those funds at their institution. But I just wanted to throw that out there, because if you're always stretched thin monetary wise, like, this might provide you some relief.
Thank you for mentioning that. And I'll sort of add on to that. Institutions are now, I won't say flooded, but they have significant amount of dollars for technology advances, right? That doesn't always have to be on the academic side of the house, right? So, if you don't have the capability to text students or have a software platform to track engagement, those can be requests that you can utilize in order to request a new platform or technology in order to assist you to do that. So don't sit by the sidelines while other organizations within the institution are requesting funds for different technologies in order to outreach to students. You are just as valuable in your outreach as well.
I'm putting in the chat for y'all. If you can send a copy of that, I would love to see it. No, because I don't know if it's how it is on some other campuses, but sometimes you have some people that are keepers of the guild and defenders of the defenders of the fiefdom, defenders of the information. So if you can send a copy of that, that'd be great. And I don't know if anybody else might want a copy of it, but I think that is a great source of our additional resources for our students that I'm just now kind of hearing about it, and what it definitely hasn't been pushed out there as far as ideas to present for using those funds. So if possible, you guys, if you can send a copy of that, I'll let her be able to read it, look through it. So I can educate myself when I'm making these requests to make sure that it's within the guidelines of that money or those funds.
We're approaching the 11 o'clock hour. I know many of you are probably programming today, so I don't want to keep you too long, but if anybody else wants to chime in or ask a question of the group, while we have a large cohort of our members or of our family, please chime in. Please, please, please.
Yeah, I got a question. Are any campuses requiring consistent testing of their students, unvaccinated students? And if so, how are y'all like collecting that information? So, how are you collecting that information to verify that student was tested and is positive? I mean, negative. Is negative. How y'all collecting that data?
Derek, we aren't at Rowan Cabarrus. They're only doing it on staff.
So it's only on staff?
Yep.
How are you? So if I'm an unvaccinated, I'm assuming it's an unvaccinated staff person, And are y'all requiring every week testing of that person, or every day, every week?
Every week. So that initiative just came out. We have several, we have Catawba and Livingstone, and we have a seminary in Salisbury. And so we're following suit with what most of them are doing. And so staff will be expected to get a copy of their vaccination card to Human Resources by October 1, or sorry, hit the button. Or they'll be required to get tested weekly to be negative.
So how you going? But how are they? How do I ensure that you tested that week? Are they required?
You have to provide it to Human Resources.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. And you can only be in your office with your mask off. Otherwise, we're open to the general public. Everybody has to be masked up.
Barbara, do you know if y'all are getting a lot of kickback on that? I mean, are people okay with going to get tested that often, or are people losing their minds over it?
Oh, that's such a political question.
I can't imagine having to facilitate that from an HR perspective. So
yeah, I'm not. So I'm thankful I'm not currently in HR. Beverly, they do have to. They have to adhere to the requirements of their job. So this is put forth by the college. So yes, there's an expectation they do one or the other. I would say it's uncomfortable and awkward, just like asking a student to prove they're vaccinated in order to get on the college vehicle. It's just as uncomfortable. A personal opinion, and then I have my professional work opinion. And there is a lot of blowback. There are some very unhappy people with the process. Both Rowan and Cabarrus counties are fairly conservative counties to begin with, and so there are a lot of folks that just don't like the fact that their educational institution is asking for their medical status, right? And I think that, but you can see this happening not just in education, it's happening all over the place. My friend is a respiratory tech. She's been frontline for almost 2 years. And I mean frontline, working with respirators the whole 9 yards. She was told if she doesn't get vaccinated at the hospital she works at, she will lose her job. So I think it's unfortunate, but it is definitely a sign of the times and where society is as a collective. It's not uncommon anymore.
Yep, I could tell. I definitely behind you on that. I mean, Barbara, as far as, because I know at Duke Raleigh Hospital, they giving their employees till September 21st. After September 21st, if you don't have it, you're not vaccinated, you will be terminated. That is
the first thing I did when I was told I had to ask students if they're vaccinated was to ask if it was to ask if it was legal. Is that legal for me to ask? And my brother happens to be a lawyer, and he said, absolutely, because it's co-curricular programming. You're not taking away from their education. You are not impeding their ability to get an education. You absolutely can require it. So, but here's my mask. We got a little mask. There it is.
Unfortunately, I got 11 o'clock. I got to run, but it's been good seeing you. I love the beard, Shane. I love it, love it, love it. Keep it going.
Thanks, brother.
And we got to get together again. I got to go and though.
So I'm willing to keep the meeting on as long as needed. If you all would like to continue discussions, by all means, if you have other things to do today, feel free to jump off and get, take care of your students in your calendar. I don't have anything on our schedule, so if we want to keep discussion going for, say, the next 30 minutes or so, we can. Feel free to chime in. If not, I love each of you. I miss you. Please take care. Please stay safe. I miss our student life family and our discussions and our arguments and the whole nine.
Thank you, JJ.
Thanks, JJ.